Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, and welcome back to my channel that is Business Analysis Professional. And today we are going to discuss about the third activity or a task in a BAPM knowledge area, which is Plan BA Governance Approach. And my name is Varun Pawar, so let's begin. So, Plan BA Governance Approach. This is the third activity or a task in Plan BAPM knowledge area. And you are familiar with this table now. The first activity was plan business analysis approach. The second was plan stakeholder engagement. Third is plan business analysis governance approach. And the input for this activity is plan business analysis approach and a stakeholder engagement approach. Those are the two outputs from the first two activities, act as an input for this third activity, and we get governance approach as a result. So now most of you, if not familiar with the change management process, so we'll discuss here and then we'll move ahead. So if suppose any request for change or any tickets or any incident comes or any user is requesting for a change, then what is the cycle of that change or how that is being processed? So first we get a request for change, and then the business analyst plays a crucial role here. He do the impact analysis of that change and see what are the areas that is being impacted by that change. And then there is a approval authority who approve the changes if these changes is going to be implemented. Also at the same time, the authority do the prioritization of those changes. And then these changes is being implemented, and then business analyst report or share that with the different stakeholders that the changes has been implemented. They can check. At the same time, here they do the business analysis, they do the business acceptance testing as well as the user acceptance testing, right? So now you understand this change management process. Basically this is a change control process as well, and who will be involved in these which in different stages of this process, and the entire change control process, how that will be driven, or so that is being decided under this business analysis governance approach. So now the objectives, the purpose of planned business analysis governance is to define how decisions are made about requirements and designs, including reviews, change control, approvals, and the prioritization. It identifies the decision makers, process, and information required for decision to be made, how approvals and prioritization decisions are made for requirements and design. So the role of the BA is how BA work will be prioritized, what is the process for proposing a change to a BA information, who has the authority and the responsibility to propose the changes, who should be involved in the change discussion, who has responsibility for analyzing the change request, who has the authority to approve the changes, how changes will be documented and communicated. All these bullet pointers, the BA identifies these pointers and fix the responsibility and accountability of each pointer. Here, as I said, business analysis approach, stakeholder engagement approach are the two major inputs for plan governance analysis, business analysis governance, and the few other inputs that act as a guidelines as tools as well. Business analysis performance assessment. It tells about the result of the previous assessment and implement the improved version. Business policies. Business policies define the limits within which the decisions must be made. Current state description, it provides the context within which the work needs to be completed. Legal and regulatory information, it describes legislative rules or regulation that must be followed. And we get governance approach. So governance approach is it tells about the identified stakeholders, who is responsible, who is accountable, who is having a final authority to make a decision, uh, to set the priority, approve the changes. So now the important elements of the governance approach. First is decision making. Decisions are made throughout the initiative. Stakeholders may serve in various roles in the decision making process, such as participant in decision making discussion, subject matter expert lending experience and knowledge to the decision making process, reviewer of information, and approver of decisions. Here, one thing you have to note is that a stakeholder could be acting in different roles based on the different scenarios or different projects. So in one project, he could be a domain subject matter expert, but in other project, he could be an important stakeholder that is giving a requirement. So the stakeholders could act uh, with different roles based on the different scenarios. The decision-making process defines what happens when teams cannot reach consensus by identifying escalation paths and key stakeholders who hold final decision-making authority. So here, decision-making process defines what happens when the teams cannot reach consensus. So it generally the business analysts try to secure the consensus from all the stakeholders uh, to be on a same page. But if the consensus is not made, or one or the two stakeholders is drifting from the consensus, having different say, in that case, the business analysts try to identify the escalation path. Like if you are not getting a consensus, then whom to approach, and the key stakeholders who hold final decision making authority. So it could be possible that since I am the representative of set of the stakeholders, or a set of the user base, and then above me there is my manager who is having a final say. So if I am not giving my consensus, having few questions, then the business analyst can reach to my manager for the final say or approval. The second element is change control process altogether. So what is change control process? Here, determine the process for requesting a change. As of today, in Jira, we have a request for change form. That form we generally provide to different users. They use that form, fill the business case, fill the description, and attach some documents to justify the need for that change. So that form we circulate among the stakeholders, different user set, and they then file the RFC, request for a change. So here the same thing is being talking about. We are talking about determine the process for requesting a change. Determine the elements of the change request. And most of the time in change request, what we generally analyze the cost and the time, that how much efforts is and the cost will be incurred to make that change, how much time it will take to make that change, the benefits, that what benefits we are getting out of that change, the risk if we are implementing that change, what are the impacted areas and what are the risk, the priority of that change itself, and the course of action. Based on all those factors, cost, benefit, risk, priority, and the time, business analysts try to do the impact analysis and discuss the change, those impact with the different stakeholders, and then come to a conclusion. And then whatever the stakeholders recommend the course of action, that the business analyst takes here. Then determine how changes will be prioritized. If the set of changes has been floating around, or the change control board get so many change requests, then the prioritization is also being done among that group. Determine how changes will be documented. The business analyst also determine how the changes will be documented, whether they need to create a separate requirement documentation, or the Jira is enough, or they have to do it everything in a Confluence, or some other documentation is required. Determine how changes will be communicated. So the changes that going to be implemented, how those changes need to be communicated to different users or stakeholders, that also been decision is also been taken, and business analyst determine who will perform the impact analysis, determine who will authorize the changes. Then plan prioritization. The another then other elements are plan prioritization approach. What would be the prioritization approach for us? When planning the prioritization process, business analysts determine the formality and rigor of the prioritization process, how important the prioritization process is, and do we do this via setting up the meetings, or we just simply talk and decide? So that formality, business analyst decides. Participants who will be involved in prioritization, who are the participants and stakeholders that with whom you need to discuss the prioritization of the change request. Process for defining how prioritization will occur, including which prioritization technique will be utilized. So we have different prioritization techniques. It could be like a grouping, or ranking, or uh, and these are the negotiation as well. So different techniques are there to do the prioritization. So which technique to utilize, that is also been determined here. Criteria to be used for prioritization. For example, requirements may be prioritized based on cost, risk, and value. Then we have another element, that is plan for approvals. An approval formalizes the agreement between all stakeholders that the content and the presentation of the requirements and design are accurate, adequate, and contain sufficient details to allow for continued progress to be made. This means before we say the approval, we need to take a consensus from all the stakeholders. And if for any of the stakeholder the consensus is not made, this business analysts try to find that escalation path and try to get the consensus. Even if thereafter the consensus is still pending, then the business analyst note down the risk in the risk register that one of the stakeholder is not agreed. So he also put there what are the risk if that stakeholder is not in line with us. Uh, the timing and the frequency of approvals are dependent on the size and complexity of the change and associated risk of foregoing or delaying an approval. So the timing and the frequency of approvals are very important. Uh, like whether we need the change control meetings on regular intervals, like weekly or monthly, and the frequency of approvals are dependent on the size and complexity of the change. So if we are getting some UX UI changes, those are just the modification, or just changing some text, or putting some icons, or changing the color. So these are small changes, so that can be minor changes. So we generally bucket the changes, like these are minor changes, these are major changes, these are minor plus but the complexity is high, or these are major and the complexity is low. So we try to segregate the changes based on the bucketing. And then dependent on the size and the complexity of the change and associated risk, if suppose we are not implementing that change, or if we delay the approval, what are the consequences? So that we also do the impact analysis of that consequences as well. Planning for approvals also includes the schedule of events, where approvals will occur and how they will be tracked. Stakeholder availability, attitude, and willingness to engage determine the efficiency of the approval process and may significantly affect delivery timelines. Then, who are the stakeholders who participate in BA governance approach? Then we have domain subject matter expert. It may be a possible source of requested change. Domain subject matter expert could itself be one of the stakeholder who request for a change. The regulator may impose their own rules or regulation in terms of a requirement as well. Project manager, project governance align with the BA governance approach. So PM also raised this example in just we have a business analysis and we are following BABOK. Similarly, for project manager, we have certification uh, and they follow this PM book, and there they have different um, uh, processes as well, which says initiation, planning, execution, monitoring, controlling, and the closure. So in their monitoring and controlling, uh, project manager generally try to have this monitoring and controlling power, which tells them to align everything around the project with that process. So project manager governs governance aligns with the BA governance approach. So PM project manager ensure this as a part of their their process as well. Sponsor impose their own requirements, approve proposed changes. So sponsor is a godfather here. So they can impose their own requirements as well. If some request for change came and the sponsor say, oh, don't do this, but instead do this. So that we have to listen. And he is also one of the stakeholder in approving the proposed changes. Then at the end, what techniques we are using in governance approach? Brainstorming used to generate an initial list of potential stakeholders names who may need approval, roles in defined governance process. Document analysis used to evaluate existing governance process for templates. Interviews used to identify possible decision making, change control approval, or prioritization approaches, and participants with an individual or small group. Item tracking used to track any issues that arise when planning a governance approach. Lesson learned used to find if past initiatives have identified valuable experiences with governance that can be leveraged on current or future initiative. Organizational modeling used to understand roles responsibilities within the organization in an effort to define a governance approach that involves the right stakeholders. Process modeling used to document the process or method for governing business analysis. Reviews used to review the proposed governance plan with key stakeholders. Survey or questionnaire used to identify possible decision making, change control, approval, or prioritization approaches and participants. Workshop used to identify possible decision making, change control, approval, or prioritization approaches and participant within a team setting. Hope you understand what is plan governance approach. So thanks for watching this video, and I'll be waiting for your questions and queries. I'll be connecting back again in my next video and the fourth activity of this knowledge area, which is plan information management. Till then, take care and goodbye.